Alright, so this is going to be a shorter one than usual, partially because we didn't do a lot over the last couple of weeks. It happens, there's a new edition of D&D out. That kind of took most of our focus the last couple of weeks, but also because, sadly, it's finally happened. I think our wonderful DM, who's been looking after us for so many weeks now, he's almost a year's worth of weekly sessions. He's finally getting to the point where, just due to life pressures and whatever it might be, he's just not feeling it anymore. And it happens, he's been in the chair too long. He wants to have a chance playing the game instead. And that's absolutely fair enough. And as long-term viewers will know, we've had quite a few deaths during this campaign. And, I think the party's changed so many times by this point. It's kind of like, it's hard to feel like we're really building towards anything other than meeting Hallister. So, he can just fast track that point, skip a couple of floors, we can get done quickly. So we're going to see what happens. But I know that he's going to want us to have a nice, satisfactory wrap up to things regardless. He's not going to just drop it completely, but at a minimum, I think we want to make sure we get to 52 sessions. That feels very special to me, a year's worth of D&D, but yeah, that's kind of where we are. But what actually happened in the latest sessions? Because we're still playing for now. And the first session was basically a backstory episode for our undead warlock Faustus, which is really cool because it's actually really the first time that we've had a dedicated backstory session for just one person in the party. There's been bits and pieces here and there. There was some stuff with Bolene and the Tooth Fairy early on in the campaign, for example, and the DM even did at one point a one-shot for me personally, not the characters, me, which was a thing. But yeah, in terms of actually fleshing out characters and building on the backstories that we've written, not been a great deal of that. So this is kind of one of the first times, which is quite cool to see. So basically what happened, we were long resting as a party following our travels in Stardock and the Crystal Caverns, and suddenly this portal to hell opens up and a devil and his henchmen arrive. And this devil, whose name is the most evil of all names, Claude, a name which cannot even be muttered without feeling sick. He arrives and says, "I am Claude the bureaucrat," and he basically announces that Faustus is on trial for money laundering, but with souls, essentially. He calls it illegal goods trading other people's souls. So this devil says that Faustus needs to plead guilty or not guilty. Of course, he says he is not guilty. He gives some evidence as to why he's not guilty, and the devil says that he's going to look into those things and he will come back, leaving us just with the words, "Don't kill the Owlin," to his henchmen. He then bamfs away, and of course immediately the two security guard devils, they attack us. We fight back, not attacking the Owlin though, but yeah, we fight back. And during the course of all of this, Faustus does learn a troubling truth as a kind of side point during all of this. He discovers that his wife, whom he thought was supposed to be in heaven following basically Faustus sold himself to hell, I think, in order to free her soul, something like this. But yeah, she might not actually be in heaven after all. In fact, she may very well have tried to make a deal with someone in order to get herself reincarnated in much the same way as Faustus himself did. It also was let slip during all of this that Faustus was mentioned to be a baron of hell, which is a very interesting thing to say. And he's very evasive about it when we press him on the topic, which is very curious. So hopefully that'll come up again soon later as well. So obviously we've only got this devil's word for all of this. We don't really know what's happening. We're pressing him well, are you guilty of this? What's going on really? So we decide to ask for some help. I have the spell Contact Other Plane, so I can talk directly with my god Klabu. Not actually talking with my god Klabu. I just think that I am. I'm really just talking to some random other planar entity. So anyway, we reach out to Klabu and ask some questions. However, the first time we try this, it utterly fails. I go insane, which is always quite fun. Basically, we role play it like I'm glitching, and then of course I need to have a long rest, which is basically like I'm installing some Windows updates overnight. The little loading bar. We're just getting a few things ready for you, and then in the morning I'm rebooted and I try again. We try to contact other plane, and this time it works. Huzzah! And we're able to ask some questions to Klabu. And we do learn that basically everything that this devil said is true, that indeed Faustus's wife has been reincarnated, is no longer in heaven, and is in fact currently in the hands of Arcturia, who is the undead lich who works with Hallister Blackcloak. And apparently she's like using the wife's soul, like some sort of battery or something like this. Now, interesting point, we as a party know where Arcturia's phylactery is. So if we want to defeat this lich at some point, we can. Now, we didn't actually manage to find that phylactery when we looked for it, but we do know whereabouts it might be located. So yeah, might be making a trip back there at some point in the future. So anyway, we go down to the next level finally, and this one is all about Githyanki and Mindflayers. Lots and lots and lots of Mindflayers. At the head of which is Extrematron, who is the Mindflayer that the Githyanki and Stardock asked us to kill, but I've kind of been in two minds about whether I should or not. So we find some dead Flumpfs, and this floor has a very brain-like feel to it. The walls are covered in kind of grey matter. It's very clear that this whole place is kind of their lair. Ember and Auric both fail a wisdom save. They end up having this joint illusion where they believe that they're back in Waterdeep inside a pub, and I have to kind of cause them damage to wake them up from the illusion. So I do this by casting like Toll the Dead in their brains, like an alarm clock, in a way, whatever. And after this, obviously Ember's very worried, and she's like, so she casts Commune with Nature to find out a bit more about this floor. And she learns that there are a number of Mind Flayers on this floor. How many exactly? I mean, 0 is a number, right? Well, the answer is lots of Mind Flayers. And this is then confirmed shortly afterwards when we discover some living Flumpfs who are kind of hiding in one of the rooms. And they reveal to us that Extrematron is kind of in charge down here and is in fact trying to turn himself into an elder brain, at which point, very dangerous, the Mind Flayers could basically take over the world. So this is something we kind of need to stop if we can. However, the Flumpfs don't really mind the Mind Flayers. They're kind of chill with them. The things that they're concerned about are the Githyanki, who have been actively hunting them. How many Gith are there on this floor? Also, lots. So of course, I've been asked to kill the Gith by my mum. But when I last talked to my god said not to trust my mum. So I'm kind of in two minds. And in fact, during the long rest, when I talked to my god, that was one of my questions. I was like, should I be trusting my mum? Should I actually be doing what she says? I'm not sure. And the answer that came back was something like, her power will aid those we seek to destroy. Which is very cryptic, but I think basically meaning like we're trying to kill Mind Flayers. The powers of my mum are helping the Mind Flayers because she's a Mind Flayer. So after this, we're kind of having a bit of a chat among ourselves as a party. We're like, well, and to be fair, this is actually quite rare for us to just kind of sit back and be like, what do we need to do here? So we have a bit of a chat among ourselves, and we're like, well, what should we actually be doing here? Should we be killing the Gith? Should we be killing the Mind Flayers? Should we be killing nobody? Ember's like, well, who do you want to kill? And I'm like, well, I have a choice. So some ideas are kind of thrown out. One of the ideas is we could just hold a big party and invite them all along, and then when they see each other, they'll just attack, and we can sort out the remnants afterwards. And someone else is like, well, we could just run away from all of them. And someone else is like, well, we could just kill everyone and let hell sort them all out later. And that might actually delay Faustus's court proceedings. You know what I'm saying? There's suddenly a whole massive influx of souls into hell. Hey, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. Let's do that. So we'll just kill everybody. Nice. That's what we've been doing anyway through this campaign, so it makes sense, right? So we head down deeper and we find some Gith. And good news, I announced to them, we've decided not to kill you. We were asked by the Gith in Stardock to kill Extrematron. Instead, he wants to become an Elder Brain. So the Gith are a bit confused by this introduction. They decide to take us to their leader, which is called Ivekla. And Ivekla, she reveals to us that she would love to help us get rid of Extrematron. She really would. She wants to get rid of him too, but unfortunately, there's Extrematron's pet guarding the way between here and there. Oh, yeah, we can help with that. We say we can get rid of the pet. Who is the pet? The dog or something? Oh no, it's a Neolithid, a massively overgrown Mindflayer tadpole. So we're like, well, if we get rid of this pet for you, will you help us to get rid of Extrematron? Sure, they say. Yeah, we'll help with that. Yeah. So we're like, great, cool, lovely. And so we go in, and boy, what a fight that followed. So I won't do a blow by blow because it went on a long time, but the highlight of this battle has to be the moment where Ember, the druid in the party, decided to cast reverse gravity on the area around this giant worm thing in order to kind of throw it hard up against the ceiling. It'll then of course take full damage, and the ceiling is covered in stalactites, so it's going to take some piercing damage as well. So it made sense, right? And then it'll be on the ceiling, it won't be able to reach us as easily. All of these things, we can pick it off from a distance. Unfortunately, I'm standing right next to this monster at that moment. So she knows that if she casts reverse gravity, I'm going to be caught up in the damage as well. So instead, she decides to throw her immovable rod to me so I can catch it. The plan being, I would then use my action to activate the rod and hold onto it as the monster is thrown up against the ceiling. So her trigger, she holds her action, and her trigger for using her action is going to be me activating the rod. And she doesn't want to say this out loud, of course, because then the worm will hear it. And I think the worm had an action before me. So we're like, okay, I'm going to do this subtly. So she throws the rod to me, and she kind of looks at it pointedly and winks. And I look back, we roll well, she throws it, I catch it, lovely stuff. But do I understand what I need to do in all of this? Is the question. Well, regular viewers of my channel will know that my character, Shiel, is a bit stupid. And I've long told the DM that I will automatically fail any and all insight checks. If I'm ever asked to take an insight check, I just fail it because I am gullible to the extreme. I'm a naive robot. I've only been alive a few weeks. I know nothing. But this time, I do decide to roll insight to see if I can figure out what Ember is trying to tell me. So I roll, nat 1, -1, 0. See? 0 is a number. So I have no clue. All I know is that she clearly wants me to use this device. So it comes around to my turn. I've been a bit damaged. I'm holding it together, but I'm a bit hurt. I've got this rod, and I'm like, well, obviously, she must want me to attack the worm with the rod. I mean, why else would she have given it to me, right? So I decide to yeet myself into the creature's mouth. I throw myself inside, deep down inside its gullet, and I ram the rod deep down in its throat, and I activate the rod. That's the trigger. Reverse gravity goes off, and this massive worm, its head now, is stuck down at the ground level, and its tail, like a vertical windsock, just goes flying up against the ceiling. It does take some fall damage, it does take a little bit of piercing damage, not as much as it would have if the whole thing had gone up, but you know, a bit of it does. But it ends up spending the rest of the battle stuck in this orientation because the reverse gravity is pulling its tail up and its head is down here, and it can't really do much, you know, beyond that point. So it's not exactly what we planned, but it does neutralize the creature, and a lot of its attacks were coming from its mouth. So after that, it can't move, and that's great. I managed to get out of the mouth. I take a ton of damage in the process, but that's fine. It's really funny. And on her next turn around, Ember then uses the spell Flame Strike to do a lot of damage. Loads of damage, in fact, because Flame Strike, as innocuous sounding as it is, it creates a vertical column of radiant fire. Straight up that thing, a vertical column of fire up this vertical windsock of a worm. It never stood a chance after that point. Now, unfortunately, in the midst of all of this, of course, the creature was still able to attack. It still had lair actions and things. So at one point, it managed to confuse Auric and myself. We had confusion cast on us in some way. And so as a result, we ended up stumbling about. We both ended up on the ceiling anyway, unfortunately. Faustus was fine because, of course, he's flying, albeit upside down from our perspective. And despite us having Death Ward cast on us earlier in the session by Faustus, Auric, because he was confused, he ended up kind of stumbling, I think, into a puddle of acid, or he got attacked by acid, and he dies. And the description of the acid, it specifically says that any creature that is reduced to 0 hit points by the acid dissolves, Roger Rabbit style. So that was sad, Auric was the longest surviving member of our party. He is now dead, a puddle of goo on the floor. However, in the aftermath, we did manage to secure a single tooth from Auric. Present for the tooth fairy there. And Ember, after discussing it among the party a little while, she decides to use this tooth to cast Resurrection. Resurrection, of course, brings you back as a random creature. So this is a little bit of a fudge of the rules on our part, but basically this is going to be a way for us to keep the same character in the party in terms of them having the same memories and the same knowledge and the same background, but they are going to be a completely new character, a completely new species, a completely new whatever. Yeah, so it's a kind of good way for us to keep continuity while staying true to the mechanics of the game. So that's basically where we left things. The Gith did almost decide to turn on us when they realized how damaged my character was and the fact that another one of our characters had died. But yeah, they decided to let us live. And so yeah, on to the next session, when I think we're going to finally meet Extrematron, and I'm hoping my character will have a little bit of a chance for a heart-to-heart and shocking revelation from his good old mum. But yeah, in the meantime, if you have watched this until the end, thank you so much for doing so. If you like this video, leave a thumbs up or a comment. It really does make a difference. And yeah, in the meantime, I will see you all next time. Take care.